Okay, here we live. There we go. Hello, everybody. I hope you are doing fabulous today. Welcome to Speaker Spotlight. For those I have not met before, my name is Lori, and I am a business and personal brand success coach who helps freedom loving coaches, consultants, and strategists to grow and scale sustainable, location independent businesses and personal brands. And today I am joined by Saloua. Ebeline. We had this whole conversation beforehand. Thank you so much, Saloua, for joining me today. I'm so excited to chat with you and to give just a little bit of background. Um, Saloua was born in Morocco and immigrated to Belgium with her mother as a toddler. At 20 years old, she immigrated again to the US, this time on her own. Alone in New York City, with no money or connections, she worked her way up from nothing, eventually creating her own successful business. And today she is an established entrepreneurship coach, an author and content creator, and digital nomad. Um, as a coach, she teaches people to start online businesses so that they can become location independent. So we're going to have a lot to talk about today. Travel the world and work from anywhere. She, as I said, is a full-time digital nomad, having lived and worked in 28 plus countries on 3 continents. So we are going to have some fun conversations today. Welcome, Ms. Saloua.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. So I want to dive in. Our topic today is going to be around digital nomadism. But first, can you just give me a little background on what inspired you to get into this lifestyle?
Yeah. Well, first of all, you mentioned a little bit about my background. So I'm technically an immigrant, and I have been twice. Once from Morocco to Belgium, Belgium to the U.S.
Hmm.
And that actually was I didn't know then, but right now I know that this was really helpful for my digital nomad journey because I have already moved around on my own and I had to learn those skills to be able to be resourceful and all of that. So it's a plus for me. Lived in New York for about 13 years, then moved to Phoenix, Arizona with an ex-boyfriend, didn't work out. And actually, after that, I had already been in business since I was in New York. So that wasn't new for me. But what was new is that I ended up finding myself in Arizona, not stranded, but I was like, what am I doing here? I mean, I had built a community of friends and people, and that's the reason why I was able to have my business online. But I had the need of travel. Like I felt like I had done my work as far as going to school, build a business, getting my American citizenship. I had done all that. I was in my early 30s, and then I said to myself, you know what? I think it's time to go. I want to take that leap of faith, and that's what led me to start it. Wanted to travel full time. And I did it the first at the beginning. I was planning to do this just for 1 year because the idea was let me travel and figure out where I want to stay, where I want to have a base. And now 3.5 years later, I still haven't found that place where I want to have a base. Well,
Oh, we could talk about that all day. I have no idea either. There's just too many choices.
yeah, there's too many choices and there's too many places that are great. And I'm like, well, I don't know. I don't know if I want to just be there and just stay there. So I think having this digital nomad lifestyle, it's very exciting and scary at the same time. So you're always juggling those two emotions, like, it's exciting. Oh no, I'm afraid. And then, but I mean, I like that. And like right now, I'm about to start in 2 weeks. I'm about to start my journey in Central and South America. Haven't been to any of that. Yeah, I do. I've been to Nicaragua and Peru, but I was on vacation, so that didn't count. So now I'm going there alone, starting with Mexico, and then I'll make my way down. So it's terrifying in one way. I was like, I'm thinking about my safety and all the what the media says, which I know I shouldn't believe the media because I know better.
Yeah, if you believe the media, you're never going to do anything in
Oh,
life.
yeah. And then I was just looking at gun violence, Mexico versus US, and we are on top of the chains, US. So I don't think there's not any other countries who are beating US when it comes to gun violence. So that's just one of the things you think about,
Mhm.
right? And then yeah, and I'm thinking about my equipment. I have thousands of dollars worth of equipment between my camera, my laptop, my GoPro, all of those things. It's like, okay, I have to travel with these things with me. And if it's taken away from me, what am I going to do? So you're thinking about all these things. And it's not always a good thing, because then you're focusing too much on the negative and not the amazing experience and people
Absolutely.
you can make while you go on your journey. So to me, it's fascinating. And sometimes I ask myself, why have I not done this way sooner? But I don't think it was the time. I don't think my mindset was there at that point.
I think it's great that you talked about the mindset, and I think that's going to be like a good segue into the conversation of, how do people prepare to start this lifestyle? How do you go from, working your 9 to 5 to living this location independent lifestyle, or even if you're already in your business, like how do you make that leap? And it mindset is a huge, huge part of it. Absolutely. So let's, I guess, talk
In
about
business, mindset is really big on everything. Even as a business owner, even if you had a base, just taking leap of
that.
faith in
Mhm.
your own business is scary enough. But it's always the people who are taking risks who gets the biggest rewards. What you really have to understand is, what is it that you really want, and
Mhm.
how much do you know yourself? These are the things, because we all have different ideas and visions. And for example, me traveling alone, I'm not afraid of that at all. But there might be a person who never left the country or even their own county. It
Yeah,
does
it
happen.
does happen.
Some people never leave Brooklyn. I'm like,
Yeah, I would say,
yeah,
especially in New York, I feel like that happens a lot because it's like everything you pretty much need or want is there. So you don't have to
you'd
leave.
be surprised. Or Florida, like, wow, I live in Florida, I got everything, the beach, and no, like literally, you can take a boat to the Bahamas, and you're there in like an hour from Miami, not even, and that's a whole different world.
Mhm.
Like go traveling for me is on the same level, if not better, as education, because you are now in a different country. You're looking at things like the light switch, the window, the toilet, and you see, I always thought this was built this way. No, because there's other people who thought differently than you at a different time, and they
Mhm.
figured out that this is not how they want to open a window. Like, for example, in New York, skyscrapers don't have windows. And when I moved there at first, I'm like, why don't we have windows? Like in Europe, we open our window wide, we let the wind flow in. And it's like, no, because people kill themselves. I was like, what? Like, these are the things you start learning as you travel, you know?
Yeah.
Also, we don't open our windows like this. We open them like this. We open them like this. It's like, who thought about opening a window like a guillotine? Like who? Like these are the things that you start um, realizing in your mind. That's
Mhm.
wow. There's different thoughts and minds out there, and it's so incredible to be able to be in contact with.
Yeah, you're so right. There's so many things too that we don't think about. And I think that's funny because my husband, who, as we were talking before, I told you, is not as much of a lover of travel as I am. He's
Yeah,
just like, it's just different people in a different place. I'm like, but no, it's not. I'm
yeah,
like you said, even down to like the toilets or the sinks, like when we were in New Zealand, for instance, um, all of the faucets had a hot faucet and a cold faucet. In the US, we have one faucet where all of your water comes out, right? Like you don't
mm,
think about those types of little things even that are just culturally different. And then not to mention the food, the language, the way we
oh yeah,
communicate with each other, the fact that in some countries you don't tip your
oh yeah,
servers, but because it's considered rude even to tip them,
yeah.
versus in the US, if you don't tip your server, you're
It's
going to have to watch out, they might be spitting in your food.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah, and that's interesting because when I moved to the US, I remember my very first day I arrived in New York. I took those little buses to drop me off at my hotel. That was in 2005, imagine, a long time ago. So I arrived, and the little shuttle bus dropped me off at my hotel, and it was $17, I remember. And I gave him a 20, and he looked at me, he said, "Thank you." And he left with my $3. But I came from Belgium. I wasn't aware of the tipping thing. I was like, the guy's just like, what happened? Why did he take my money? I went into this whole thing, and $3 was a lot of money back then. And so I started to learn about the tipping thing. But this is very true. In the rest of the world, people are paid a salary when they work as a waitress and waiters, and they don't tip. Now it's becoming a little bit more common, because a lot of Americans travel and they like to leave a tip. And but other than that, it's not custom, and that's why a lot of French people, by the way, don't tip in the U.S. There's always a lot of drama with that, and people know it. Like if you work in a
Yeah.
restaurant business, like, oh, those French people are, you know.
Yeah, the French do have a reputation in the U.S. I
And
think.
so
Yeah.
is American in France. I mean, I was
Yeah,
like,
exactly, exactly. It goes both ways.
that is interesting. And I used to work as a waitress in Europe, and I remember what we are taught is not to bother the customers or the client. What are they eating? Here is totally opposite. Like for us in France, if I serve you at your table, I don't bother you unless you are asking for help. So I always pay attention, but the client have to, or the customer has to just like raise the hand and be like, "Excuse me," and then I come over. But here in the US, when I came here, I have, I sit at a table and we have a waitress that be like, "Hi, my name is Samantha. How can I help you? Wait, if you need anything." She comes back every 5 minutes. Is it okay? Is everything good? I'm like, why are they like that? And then I realized, yeah, they want to get tipped.
Mhm, mhm.
Anyways, let
Yeah,
me know if you much we are going
no,
outside.
no. So, and again, these are the things that we talk about, right? And when it comes to digital nomadism, and I do want to encourage those in the audience, if you have questions, feel free to pop those in. And if you're watching the replay, let us know too, and we'll be keeping an eye on the comments. So even in the replay, but so let's talk a little bit more about the logistics behind starting out
Yeah.
as a digital nomad. What are some of the first steps that people need to take to be able to live this lifestyle?
So when I started my journey, I planned a good 6 months prior. So that was really a lot of work because there's few things I had to consider, and I'm going to share them with you. But the number one thing you have to consider is what kind of nomad you want to be. Do you want to have a base or not? Do you want to be full time or not? And then what is your situation? Are you single? Are you in a relationship? Do you have children? Do you have family? Like these are the things you want to consider because that will change everything. Compared to,
Mm-hmm.
like, I can only share my story as a solo female traveler who didn't want to have a base. I wanted to go full time. So that's number one. Also, do you want to keep your car? A lot of people like to go on road trips or get a van instead, and they want to do the whole US, Canada, Central America, all that stuff. And some even ship their car overseas and they continue to do everything driving, and they want to camp. And I'm like a, what do you call, glamping? I don't like camping. Like I'm afraid. Like I'm afraid of ghosts and bears. I just don't want to be in the woods by myself. But a lot of people do that. I look at it, I was like, are they crazy? The disappearance in national parks and stuff. I would never do that by myself. So these are the things you have to consider as a step number one.
Mm-hmm.
Then the step number two, let's say I'm gonna share it as a full-time solo female digital nomad. So I'm share my story.
Mm-hmm.
Two, you have to now get into the mindset of minimalism. That's the hardest part, my friend. If you have a big house, like I used to have a house, I had an apartment, I had a car, I had a furniture, all that stuff. You
Mm-hmm.
have to start thinking about, can I live out of one luggage?
Yeah, we we actually do exercises every now and then when we haven't traveled for a while, and of that, and like, okay, instead of putting our clothes in the dresser, we're just gonna live out of a suitcase to see if we can still fit all of our stuff. Because when you are in a place for a while, then you start to acquire stuff again.
Well, you have to follow this rule: one in, one out,
Mhm.
always. So the luggage, the content of my luggage from 3 years ago is all gone. Like what I have in my new luggage, and I have new shoes, new purse, new clothes, new socks, new underwear, new everything. Because every time something is, because I wear the same stuff a lot of times. So that's
Mhm.
why my videos you'll see a lot of time.
Me too, because we're minimalists. We don't have a lot of clothes to wear.
Oh my YouTube videos, like, oh yeah. And sometimes I go to Goodwill. I was like, yeah, and there's nothing wrong with Goodwill. A lot of people say I
Oh,
like Goodwill. I
I'm a
have a lot of great
big
stuff
fan of
there.
thrift shops.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I get like 5 shirts for $30. I'm happy. I go home, I can do all my videos, and then I can donate them again at 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pointer, there is some places in the US where there are like boutique Goodwill locations.
Mm-hmm.
I've been to one in Portland and it's all designer clothes. Use designer clothes for super, super cheap. So
Yeah,
Goodwill is
nice.
fantastic.
And to add to what you said, you can also rent clothes. You have rent the runway
I know,
now.
that's crazy,
You
right?
like if you have an event to go, because I sometimes have to go to nice events or date night or restaurant, and I have to have a nice piece of clothes and heels. I don't even wear heels. I mean, I don't pack them anymore. But what I would do is always have that little, what do we call it, LBD. That's a must have for women.
Oh, a
Little
little black dress, yep. I
must
don't
have.
have that one anymore either.
You need to get one outfit that you're gonna be wearing for, because things happen, birthday, and then if you always
Mhm.
going with your hoodies, and that's how it goes most of the time. Flip flops and hoodies. Yeah.
Yep, leggings and tank
Like
tops. I'm sitting in front of the air conditioner now, so I'm wearing a sweater, but it's under
yeah.
there.
So first thing is minimalism. This is want to take you a lot of time if you're not used to this, because America, if you're traveling from the US, especially, America is a country that is really based on consumerism. Like
Mhm.
people consume here, and you only know that if you travel. If you don't travel, you think it's normal, because here people have credit cards and they have 10 credit cards and they put everything on credits. We don't have that in most of the world. We don't have a
Mhm.
credit score. This is a new thing for some of the countries. But I grew
Yeah.
up without a credit. Like, what's that? So when I came to the US, I had no credit. That's another story. But those are the things you want to think about. Like,
Mhm.
how, like, can I live as a minimalist? And so a few things you might want to watch is, there's a great movie called The Minimalist. I don't know if you saw it. There's also
Mhm.
have a book about these two guys who work in corporate, and they like chasing the successful lifestyle and making a lot of money, and they did, until they realized, well, how much I gotta chase this, like, where am I going with all this? And then buying a new
Mhm.
car, a new house, a new boat, and next thing you know, you are in this you know you have so much expenses and stress and debts, and
Mhm.
this is hard. Like, I have no debt, which is bad in America. Apparently you have to have debt here, because it's a good thing, the more debt, the more money you make. But anyways, I like to live freely, and I don't
Mhm.
want any of that, so I don't owe anything, and I'm happy. So these are the things you
Yeah.
have to consider.
Yeah, then those are all really great points. And on the credit, I do use my credit card, but you're right. Like in the U.S., it's totally normal to just carry tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of debt.
Yeah,
And I'm not talking about your mortgage, but just
right.
in general. Um, but your credit card can also be a great source
Yeah.
of
Is it?
airline miles and free travel. So you just have to use it correctly.
Well, yeah, and that's a whole different topic. But and I ended up getting one credit card. It's a small credit card for Southwest Airlines, and I
Mhm.
use that just for anything related to travel.
Mhm.
So that's good to have one. But I'm saying the average American has $40,000 worth of credit card debt. This is
Mhm.
crazy. That doesn't include student loan and mortgage.
Nope, nope.
40,000. Can you imagine me walking around with $40,000 on my head that I owe at all time? I would just
Yep.
lose
I've
it.
been there. I had 50. But it's normal, and that minimalist lifestyle and that change, it really does make a difference in your ability to live without debt. If you don't have all of the stuff happening,
Yeah.
not trying to in the US we we call it, right, keeping up with the Joneses, like having the cars, having the nice houses, the nice things. If you don't have to do those things, it's a lot easier to stay debt free.
Right. And you can still be fabulous. Listen, you don't have to be like a backpacker that looks like a homeless, like a lot of people who's like a hippie backpackers. It's not what we talk about. Like,
Hmm.
you can have a really good lifestyle. And to be honest with you, since I left the US, I've been making more money, saving more money, and enjoying life a lot more than when I was here. I remember I used to live in
Hmm.
New York City. I lived there for a long time.
Yeah.
And you know how much I pay for my rent? $2,500. This is in 2005. So
Yeah.
imagine today, I had to work two jobs. I went to school full time. I was building a business. I look back now and I'm like, oh my God, the amount of stress I put on my body back then, lack of sleep, always stressed
Mhm.
out, always worried about money, never had enough money left. I was making
Mhm.
money and the money was gone,
Going.
you know?
Yep.
So these are the things I don't have to worry about now because I live in countries, first of all, who are a lot more affordable. And I can come back to the US whenever I need to or Europe. But think about it. If you're making an average salary of 2 to 3 grand a month, American salary, which is
Mhm.
nothing in the US, you can't live with that. Forget about New
No.
York. Like you can live with that here. Your rent will be at least 2,000. But if you live with that in Thailand, in Mexico, in Costa Rica, maybe not Costa Rica because it gets
They're
expensive,
getting expensive now. Yeah.
but India, this is like 10 times plus the
Yeah.
worth of what you can get. Morocco. I lived in Morocco. I stayed there 6 months last year and I lived in I swear fancy. And when I say fancy, it's like, wow, all the amenity. Fancy building. I had a doorman, I had my all the latest equipment,
Mhm.
fully furnished apartment, and I paid $600 a month
Yep.
what I paid. Fully furnished, two flat screen TV, bed. All I had everything I needed. $600. And for Morocco, by the way, is expensive. But for me, coming from
You're just
here,
like, that was amazing. Yeah.
people pay a lot less because the average salary in Morocco, I think, is between $200 to $400 a month. It's really, really bad. Like it's low. But if you make 2 to 3 grand a month
Mhm.
here, you can live like that. So these are the things you have to think about. But once you start this lifestyle, you are like, wow, what's not everybody doing this? Like it's amazing.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
by the way, that started a whole new problem now with the gentrification, and we can talk about this on very other videos. But a lot of people
Mhm.
hate digital nomads now.
My husband and I were just talking about this yesterday, actually, during our walk. And I don't blame them because you have to be really conscious of the local cultures when you're traveling, even when you're renting a place and not looking at, the American realtors company, because they're going to sell you American prices
Yeah.
versus going to the local real estate agent that's going to find you the best local prices and that's going to serve people better. It's, it's doing
And
a
you
disservice to the communities if you aren't doing that extra work.
definitely want, and that's honestly, that's a message that if you can share that with your community, that's very important. As you travel, do not impose your own ways. You have to really be
Mhm.
adaptable and blend in and learn the culture where you're going. You are a guest there, you are invited
Mhm.
there, and there are beautiful countries out there. And that's one thing I've heard a lot is Americans and some other countries, the foreigners really impose their ways. And by doing
Mhm.
that, they are what you're saying, they're making everything becoming Americans. First of all, they don't even try to speak the language of the locals, which is like one other problem.
Mhm.
Everything else, they just assume that, well, I'm American. You do what I want or what
Yeah,
as I
you'll speak English. You'll do what I can. I can find Walmart and everything else, that I want everywhere. And great. It's nice to have some of those conveniences, but we do have to realize that if we're traveling somewhere, you're traveling for a purpose. If all we want is the U.S., then stay in the U.S.
it's Amazon Prime.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, even I would say this is more the continental US because I think if you go to places like my husband and I, we've lived in the Virgin Islands for a while. And even going there, like when we first moved, it was it was the same thing. And it's a US territory. And I definitely heard the same thing about, locals in Hawaii saying the same thing about people coming to Hawaii. So it's not just other countries, it's,
Yeah.
outside
Hawaii.
the continental US. So really.
But that's the whole purpose of traveling is to get out of what you already know. So gentrification, I mean, if we are going to be starting as digital nomad, we have to be responsible with this. And I honestly tried my best. I always try to shop local. I pay
Mhm.
for services local. I try to stay in the realm. Like I don't live almost ever in, first of all, never go to resorts. I just hate that. For me, resorts don't make any sense. I mean, if I travel there, Why would I stay in an all-inclusive hotel with a pool? That's not why I'm here. I'm here because I want to experience how people live in that area, right?
Mm-hmm.
So try to always maybe rent local, do everything so you can continue to help out the economy and be adaptable in a new culture. It's
Mm-hmm.
very important. So I don't know why we were saying this, but
I don't remember either. That's why I figured we would get off on some tangents on this
right. Yeah.
conversation. And I
Anyway,
didn't
so
realize what time it
minimalism.
was too. Yeah,
We
I
can talk
think
about
we
it.
could talk for hours.
Yeah, but this is a main problem. Like it's very important to highlight that because it's
Yeah,
our
absolutely,
responsibility.
absolutely. So one thing I do want to make sure that we talk about really is around the remote work, because that's something I know we told people we'd talk about. And we chatted a little bit before we started, when it comes to how to find remote work, because just because like we're both coaches, right? We have our own businesses,
Right.
and everybody in my communities are entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs. But just because you're not making the money in your business yet that you want doesn't mean that you have to wait to start the life, right?
Well, okay. So let me tell you what I think. And by the way, I've made a whole series of YouTube videos on that topic because people I always ask, well, I need the money, blah, 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 blah. Yes. So my feedback would be when you are ready to start your digital nomad journey and you kind of have an idea where you want to go, first thing is have some savings. So you don't have to have a lot, but you have to have enough to cover you for emergencies, for flight back home, for maybe a hotel, and
Mhm.
or if your laptop breaks down. By the way, this happened to me. My phone, credit card, and wallet has all been stolen when I was abroad. Listen, I'm
Mhm.
a gangster. Nobody steals from me. But this one, I didn't see it coming. I don't know how they did it. I don't know because they took it from my bag. And that put me in a terrible situation because I couldn't get my credit card back. My bank didn't want to send it back to Europe. It took, and I was moving around. It was a whole mess. But my point is, have at least 3 months of savings of the expenses of the country you are going to. So 3 months of savings in Mexico City will be different than 3 months of saving in Portland, right?
Right. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
minimum. And now you have to think about another thing. How confident are you, as far as making money? Big, big, big deal. Lots of people are terrified. They need 6 months to a year of savings because I have friends like that. They were like, oh,
Mhm.
no, I'm not going anywhere until I have this much money. And then you have the people who are totally free spirits who can go without any money and they understand themselves that they can get a job even if they have to work at a coffee shop, hostel,
Right.
waiter, volunteer for housing. So figure out where you are. I'm in the middle. You can
Yeah.
put me in China tomorrow. I'll figure it out. But I like to have some savings and make sure that I have a credit card for emergency and some savings. So that's the
Mhm.
first thing I'd say before even looking at jobs. Then the
Mhm.
next thing is you need to understand your skills. What are you able to do? Let's say if you're losing everything, like you and I, let's say tomorrow
Mhm.
I lose all my clients
Yep.
and I have no more money. I know that I'm extremely good at social media. I can go online and I can get a job remote, and it's very easy. You can do that on LinkedIn. There's like a
Yep,
remote
absolutely.
that. There's tons of platforms online. I think there's freelancers.com, Fiverr, Upwork. I can send you a list of my place where I get,
Mhm.
paid all the time. But start with those four. And you can find a full-time job as a social media person, social media manager. You can do Facebook ads.
Mhm.
So much on there. You can do designs on Canva and you name it. And then you can get a part-time job online that will make you at least 2 grand a month, 1,500, 2 grand a month if you're starting out. And that you can live like a king, a queen in
Mhm.
Guadalajara, Mexico. 2 hours flight. You can get a really nice apartment for $500.
Yep.
I mean, there's no excuses. I have a lot of friends here in the US who struggle, and they tell me all the time. And I said, look at where you live. You live in Sedona, where it's like $3,000 a month for
For a
rent.
studio apartment, $3,000 in Sedona. My husband and I looked at living in
Oh
Sedona
yeah,
again this winter for a while, but it's a yeah.
Sedona. You looked at Sedona for an apartment?
Yeah. Yeah, we've looked. I love Sedona. It's beautiful. It's
How much
beautiful.
was it?
But like I said, it was literally like 2,500 to like 3,000 for like studios, 1 bedrooms per month.
Why do you want to be in
You
like
want a
not you?
house?
I'm just
Oh,
saying my
please.
friends. Yeah, I said, why would you want to be there if you're not bringing in income? You got
Mm-hmm.
to start being open and say, okay, then if this is bad, then go to. Give me a name of a city in the U.S. that's cheap. Is there such a thing?
Let's say Oklahoma City. I don't know. For some reason, I feel like if you're in Oklahoma, it's cheap
Yeah,
cost of living.
obviously.
Sorry if that's an
Or
assumption.
Detroit, but a bit dangerous.
Fargo, yeah.
But even if you're an American citizen, you already passport privilege. You can go anywhere in the world and stay between 3 and 6 months without a visa. Why would you do that? You know?
Mhm.
Or and I got a tip for you, and I've been doing this, and how I have saved a lot of money is I've been house sitting. I've been house sitting in like luxury properties I would never be able to afford on my own. And sometimes there's no pet, sometimes there's a pet, and I paid nothing. And every time I was doing that, it was 2 grand or $1,500 that I can boom reinvest in my business
Mhm.
with savings. So, and by the way, I have a link. If you, even you should think about this if you ever want to do that. It's like free money. I don't understand why people don't do this. Like,
Yeah, we've looked into it. We've never done it. We've never done the house sit. Mostly just because I was lazy. Really, that's really
there's
what it
nothing
comes down
to.
to. That's all it was laziness.
I mean, if you're not allergic to cats or dogs, but imagine you have a really nice, like, this is what I did in Houston. I had a huge house with the car because I negotiated the car for 3 months, and I had one cat, a beautiful cat. And I work from home, so I'm always with the cat. So, of course, it's a responsibility. You have to make sure the house and the pets are that's your priority. But think about it, 3 months, didn't pay a rent, and I lived in a really nice city in the US. I experienced new things. And here's the plus: if you go to networking events, you can make new connections. And I've gathered a list of clients as I traveled from Dubai to Turkey to
Mhm.
Germany. I've had clients in these countries just because I met with them. So that's the abundance of travels. Like, you don't have to make money just here. You can actually grow your business as you travel. You got to pay your taxes though.
Yes. Got to pay those taxes. Back in the US, some countries require you to, if you stay for long periods, to pay it there too. But
Right, that's true. I mean, we
okay.
could do a whole video on that. That's like
Yeah,
so.
I was saying, I think we could talk for days on this, but being that we've been on for half an hour, and I think most people have dropped at this point, for those watching the replay or those that are still hanging in there, if you have questions, you can always feel free to reach out to Saloua. How do they connect with you?
So my two favorite social media are YouTube and Instagram, and it's my name, Saloua Ibalin.
There you go.
Um, and then they can email me if they need anything, and that would be, you have my email. It's info at, and then my name, salouaibalin.com.
Yeah.
And I'm always
Or
happy
just
to,
send her a DM and she'll give it to you
yeah,
too. Yep.
send a DM and let me know. Yeah, that would be
Yeah,
great.
absolutely. This has been a lovely conversation. So if you had to give people one, piece of advice when it comes to this lifestyle, what are your words of wisdom?
Don't wait till you're ready, because you are never going to be ready. Just get started, and then you figure it out as we go. I just want to say one quick thing. Before I left for my first year of Nomad, I had made a very detailed plan of everything I was going to do. And guess what? Zero, nada of what I planned actually happened. None. None.
Mhm.
I went to a country I wasn't planning to, and the country I wanted to go, I didn't go. So, because life happens and you figure it out. So, leave room for the unexpected. Don't
Mhm.
overplan, but at least, move into the direction of where you want to go. Don't wait. Life is not promised. So,
Yeah, I like that. I say that too. Tomorrow is never promised, guys. So if you want to live your life, go out and do it. And yeah, thank
yeah.
you. This has been amazing.
Thank you.
Like I said, I something I'm very, very passionate about. So, thank you again for being here, and for everybody else. If you are struggling to overcome your fears um, in your business, or if you're just ready to really grow to that next level in your business, get more clients in, and find your voice so that you can tap into it and use that to build an authentic and aligned brand for yourself, please feel free to reach out to myself or any of my team members via DM, and would be happy to let you know how we can help you. And thank you so much, Saloua, for being here today. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And we will be back next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.